All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Living the Dream podcast. Today on the show, we have Pamela Lawson, who is the author of Rise of the Ravenisha. Pamela, how you doing?
I am doing great. It's 5 o'clock in the morning
I
on the
know
West Coast here.
that is it's
And I
7
am
a.m.
so
here.
not a
Yeah,
morning person. But other than that, I'm doing great. Oh, I have my strong cup of coffee. I'm fine. How are you?
I am doing great. It's 7 a.m. here, not nearly as early, but still early. So I'm surprised that you're up at 5 doing this. That is very impressive. Kudos to you for sure.
Thank you.
Well, awesome. We like to jump right in. So if you can start with telling us a little bit more about yourself and what you like to do for fun, that'd be great.
Well, I was born and raised in Talladega, Alabama. I'm sure you can tell by my wonderful Southern accent here. And I have two siblings, sisters. And my parents both died in the same year, not at the same time, but in the same year when I was 11. So my sisters and I were essentially orphans, but one of my father's sisters took us in because she lived the closest to our house, and that enabled us to um, still go to our house after school because our house was right across the road from the school, and so we were still able to stay in our house in a way. And we also had an adult whose house we would go to at night. And so that really shaped who I am today. I initially started off with an interest in forensic pathology because of my parents' early deaths. I was that weird little girl at the funeral. Well, 11 is not so little, but I was that weird girl at the funeral asking the funeral director about the embalming process. And I remember him looking at me and going, well, and he proceeded to try to explain it in a way, that was age appropriate. And I just wanted to tell him years later, which I didn't get a chance to do because unfortunately he passed away. I wanted to tell him I did not grow up to be a serial killer.
I
and,
got
and I was one of those girls actually my mother encouraged my sisters and I to read from an early age. So I've read ever since I can remember. I was reading Frank Yerby, and I don't think those were age appropriate books for an 11-year-old, but it is what it is. And my mother was a horror fan. So I remember just staying up on Friday nights watching the creature feature shows with her and being scared out of my head. But um, so that it was it was a great life, I have to admit, up until the moment that they died. So I attended a de facto segregated school, and somehow I got into UC Berkeley.
you.
I had a cousin who was going at the time, and after our parents died, the relatives sent us out to California to stay with my father's other siblings for the summer. And I remember walking on the campus and seeing all of these hippies, and I thought, oh, this is so cool. I had never seen anything like that in my life. So that image stayed in my head. And so when it came time to apply for schools, I applied to UC Berkeley and I got in. And my sisters followed. And that's how we all ended out here in California. I currently live outside of Sacramento, California. Uh, I got my BA in anthropology. So it was not English. I didn't take any writing courses.
Yep.
And there's a story to how I ended up writing this book. I think the second question was what I do for recreation, and I love horses. And when I was in my mid 30s, I started taking horseback riding lessons. I started taking English hunter jumper lessons, and because I was falling so much over the jumps, I later learned that I have tinnitus, which is ringing in the ear, and it affects my balance. Oh, if only I had known that.
Yeah.
So I switched to dressage, and that's what I do today. And it's really important for me. I try to put that love of horses in my stories because I want people to know, especially Black kids, to know that this is fun. It inspires character in you, and it's something that Black people do. It's not just something that white people. It's not a white person sport only.
Yeah, that's definitely the perception I have of it.
Yeah.
That was just a white people sport, but it's nice to see that those I found that those are typically misconceptions. Like every now and then it's pretty accurate, but most of the time, especially nowadays, it's just a misconception through and through.
Yes,
And you said
absolutely.
now you do massage,
Dressage.
dressage. I was like
You said
massage.
massage.
Yeah, that's completely different.
Dressage is, I don't know if you've watched the Olympics or, but it's when the horses appear to be dancing. That's what most people think of it. But it's really the training of the horse, and they're trained to do these movements. And it looks like sometimes it will look like they're skipping alone. Other times they're elevated and trotting in one spot. Of course, I'm nowhere near that level, but I still enjoy it because it's really for that type of person who likes to be exact because they design these tests. So you do these movements. For instance, you do a 20-meter circle. And when they mean 20-meter circle, they don't mean like 19 and a half meters, you know.
Yeah,
So you really learn to be exact. Or when they say you do a movement at K, then you're supposed to do that movement at K, not before K, not after K.
yeah,
So it's oh, what's the word I want to say? It's annoying as all get out, but it's also fun because I'm usually my lessons I'm going like, damn, I
uh,
missed I missed the letter. Damn, that circle was too wide.
yeah. I gotcha.
And yet I keep, I'm compelled to keep coming back over and over. And what I really love about writing is that you can do it when you're old. I mean,
Mhm.
I look at Queen Elizabeth. And so that's my inspiration right there. So I always tell people if Queen Elizabeth was on horses until she was in her 90s, then I can too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tell us a little bit about what your day to day looks like. Are you full time on the author side, or do you have other stuff going on?
I am full time on the author side. I so Rights of the Ravenisha was published, and I am currently working with Voyage Media. And after months of collaboration, the lookbook is finally ready. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what that is, but that's um, the information that a producer will take to production companies when she's doing the pitch for
Oh,
adapting the book into a series. And it's been a huge learning process, huge. First thing they did was kind of change my story.
yeah.
So I can't tell you how I felt when I read the lines that I mean there were some significant changes. For example, my character Teddy, his boyfriend is named Gus, and he's this black warrior. What part of the Sorrow who's assigned to protect the Ravenisha. And they changed Gus to white man.
Oh.
Yes. And they took out all of the slavery parts.
Oh.
Uh, I was just like, oh my God, that's the part of the story. But they said they didn't want to focus on the Black trauma.
Mm.
And so that's one of your questions, I believe, asked, oh, let me see what it was. It was asking what was something that you were willing to do. Let me, oh, what action steps can you take right now to get to your highest priority dream?
Hmm.
And wrote, be willing to sacrifice my first series. It's going to be a give and take. They do try to the team. I'm sorry, at Voice Media, they do try to address my concerns. And I understand completely where they're going with it. I think they're trying to draw the audience, the people who watch Euphoria. For instance, in my book, Teddy is a college graduate. In their storyline, she's a college student. who's in love with Gus, who is the nefarious slave owners. So he's not the actual slave owner. He's a direct descendant of the
I got
slave owner. So he's Gus is Rufus's son, and he's unaware that his father has been keeping these African women warriors prisoners for all of these years.
gotcha.
And yes, and I'm going to be interested to see how they're going to do that, because in my book he keeps the reason that they don't shapeshift and eat him is because he has these collars on their necks that if they try to escape, he can kill them, by activating explosives in the collars. And so I think it should be interesting, because when I mentioned that, Warriors Media once again said, oh, it just reminds people of manacles on slaves' necks.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, well, that's the point.
Uh-huh.
The whole point.
Yeah.
And so, but it's still exciting. So we shall see. The 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 written part is done, the graphics are done. We finally agreed on the graphics. And so I will be excited and to see the response to the story, and see if the production company picks it, options it, and then it's adapted into a series.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And I don't know how I got roped into this, but I'm working on a memoir. So I don't know how I went from creative writing to a memoir, but it's been a fascinating process. It's about the Indo-Fijians and the Gurmit system. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but I had no idea that Indians were brought over to Fiji as indentured servants to work on the sugarcane plantations. And I'm writing this person's story. He's not what is he? I think he's a third generation at this point. So I'm going back from from his grandfather came over on the ship along with other Indians, thinking they're going to get this great wealth from working in the sugarcane plant on the sugarcane plantations, and it's going to be easy life. And what I find interesting is that as I gather information about this person's life. He's 88 years old now, and he was apparently a permanent educator in Fiji. And so much of their story parallels um, the story of rural African Americans during that era. I read certain things, and I thought, oh, I know about kerosene lamps, and it's talking about pit toilets. And I'm thinking, oh, when I was growing up, I would go to my friends' houses and they had outhouses,
Yeah.
and some people didn't have running water or electricity. And so I really identify with what they had to go through. So that's what I'm doing. Again, this person who never, ever, ever dreamed about being a writer. I'm writing.
There we go. I love it. So I have a couple questions. Tell us a little bit about when Rights of the Ravenisha. What's the time setting? Like what year? What's the give us a
Okay.
picture of the
Okay. It's set in the current year,
Gotcha.
and it spans from the um, 15th century to when the women were these women warriors of the Dahomey. So think about Amazons.
Mhm.
And I made mine a sect from the Amazons that we all know. And so the basic premise is that you have these women, and they're off to battle. And when they return to their village, they discover that it's been overtaken by these two brothers. And so they are on the run. And the brothers have these these Amazon, women warriors. And so this my group, they flee to the mountains, And their leader one day is just out hunting, and she encounters this dark spirit, and so of course she sells her soul. And so the women are given great power. They shapeshift and into were-panthers once a month, and they eat humans. And so eventually their best friend, the queen, turns on them because she wants everything for herself. And so she tells her friends that if they go to America, because by now we have a slave trade, so if they go to America as slaves, she will join them, and then the Ravenisha can spread their power to all over the world, and that way they're um, following La Noirs, and that's the evil spirit. They're following her orders. So of course the friends go. They're bought as slaves by the same family, the Honeycutt family, and it just follows over their lives over the years, because they live forever. It's difficult for them to be killed, but they can be killed.
Mm.
So they go through owner after owner, and over the years, of course, people find out what they really are. And so um and I always lose my train of thought. Always, always. So people find out what they really are over the years. And at some point, Rufus comes into the picture, and he starts experimenting on them because, you know,
Yeah.
people love power.
Uh-huh.
Who doesn't want to live forever?
Yeah.
And of course, they don't just meekly go along with everything. Over the years, they've sabotaged the labs, refused to let them draw blood. But what happens is that, and this they didn't want to address this either. He rapes them and impregnates them,
No.
and so then that gives birth to another rise of Ravenisha, and it happens again. So there's kind of an incest thing. But I tried to tell them that's my story too. My great grandmother's father was also her mother's father. So of course that's taken out. That's taken out of the story
Hmm.
completely. I don't know where Teddy and her sister just pop up, but anyways, the so over the years, the women are now stuck on this plantation because Rufus has figured out how to trap them with these collars, and he's taken the middle generation and spirited them away. So these mothers have no idea where their daughters are. So the basic story now focuses on the original generation of Ravenisha and the current generation of today. And things come to a head one day, and they decide it's time to break their chains, to break those out of bondage. It's time to kick Rufus's butt and their so-called best friend Queen Idiot's butt, or Idiot's butt.
Mm.
And so that's where the story begins, is when they've decided they've had it. Enough is enough. And around this time, the new generation is also coming into their powers. And they've been told all of their lives what they are. So it's not a surprise. And they've been training. I have one warrior woman. She's kind of like the general, think about the woman king type person. And so she's been training them all of their lives. And now it's finally happening.
Mm.
And of course, Rufus is trying to dig his little claws in even harder now, but the women are not having it. And so that's the story. It's about how they escape Rufus. They get revenge with Queen Idia, and just it's really a story about women's empowerment
Yeah.
told through the lens of these women warriors.
I gotcha. And
And
so my question is, what is making Rufus so strong? Is it just the fact that he has those colors on them, or he's leading an army of
he
other?
he has been at this point. Um, I skipped some things because I'm just like, oh, I can't tell
I
everything,
gotcha. Yeah.
but he has. because his father was also a scientist. And so it's like these women have been experimented on for centuries at this point.
Yeah.
And so Rufus has um he has some of their powers, for instance, the ability to live longer, but he doesn't have everything.
Mm,
And and again, his hold on them is that he has their daughters.
I gotcha.
Because we know, I mean, I'm sure they could probably find some way to escape, from those collars. Hint, hint, a story hint. But he has their daughters.
Yeah.
And so we know how mothers feel about their children. They'll do anything, even if it means remaining on this so-called plantation. Oh, and the story is set in this fictional town in Ravenswood, Alabama.
I gotcha.
And yeah, so and they're basically on what I call it a large preserve, and I did call it plantation, but of course, my voyage people they changed it. It's now a ranch.
Mm,
They took the plantation name away too.
yeah. Yeah. And when you talk production company, are you talking like putting it on television, making it a series in that way?
Yes, we discussed what would be the best way, and I was told that the big screen, the movie would just be it would just cost too much because we're going back in time. And so we're going to target TV and streaming
Yeah.
at the
I
big size.
gotcha. There we go. There we go. And so are you currently pitching it or has it already been approved as a series?
It has not, we are currently actually neither. We just finished the lookbook, and
Gotcha.
that's what she's going to take with her when
Two
she
pitch.
goes out to pitch it. Yes. Yeah, I don't think people realize too how slowly these wheels turn. I
Yeah.
keep telling people, I hope I'm still alive.
Uh,
It
I gotcha.
comes to fruition.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Tell us a little bit more about your motivation. What really gets you up and keeps you going every day? And why
Oh,
these books?
and buy these books. You know, I gosh, I think I've been lost for many, many years. As I mentioned earlier, I got my degree in anthropology, but it soon became apparent when I was in school that science, math, that was just not going to be my thing. And it's not because I was dumb or anything, because I excelled in everything else. It's just I didn't have the foundation. There's only so far you can go attending a de facto segregated school. And so I kind of felt like my dreams of becoming a forensic pathologist, they were crushed. And so I kind of floundered after that. I did a stint in graduate school for anthropology. I worked as an administrative assistant. I was a radiology tech, an ultrasound tech. And none of those things were fulfilling. I knew that I was the type of person who would never be happy with an office job. I mean, Timothy, I would suffer. I would look at the clock, it would say 3 o'clock. I'd look again, it'd be like 3:03.
Uh-huh. Yep.
That was it was torture for me. But again, I never thought about writing. So what happened is I was at a family reunion in the Poconos and on a horseback, a trail up a horseback ride, and oh, I wanted to canter. I didn't realize that the horse had been trained Western. So
Mm.
of course I'm asking, well, what's the cue to canter? And she said, oh, just kick him. I kick him. I get off balance because he doesn't go. And then all of a sudden he goes, he zooms off and I fall, and it's the worst fall ever in
Mm.
my life.
Yeah.
The pain, I mean, I am still recuperating, but of course, I'm still gonna get back on, so I've still gotten back on horses. But it was just the worst pain ever. And so while I was just in the bed, just missing out on the family reunion, and I'm one of those people, I need to go to the hospital, but I'm just like, I'll go in California because that's where my insurance is. So, And so I just thought, well, what if there were these were panthers and well, what if there were these women warriors and what if they shapeshifted into were panthers and they ate people? And Black course Black Panther was out around that time. And but I didn't want my women warriors to be like, their women warriors. So that's where actually the shape shifting into the were panthers came in. And also because I love stories
Yeah.
about, shapeshifters and vampires. And so when I returned to California, I don't know. I was like a person possessed. I got up every day at 7. I was at the computer and I ripped out that story in 3 months. And of course, oh, it was a hot mess. It
Yeah.
was awful. I had somebody read it and she said, the first thing you need to do is be consistent with your tenses. If you're writing stuff, I'm just right. It was kind of like the word vomiting and just getting it all out on the pages. And so that actually began the process of me really learning how to write. And I started watching writing series on YouTube, taking classes, little classes online. It's nothing formal. And so, and along the way, I decided, oh, I'm just gonna I'm just gonna try to get an agent just to see what the response will be. So of course the responses were all no's, but along the way, I got some people saying, you have a great idea, but you need to get a developmental editor. You have a great story here, but you need to tighten it up some. And so I took their advice to heart, and that's what I did. Of course, by then, I had run out of people to pitch the story to.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided I'm just going to publish this puppy. I know it has issues, and but it's a debut novel, and I've already completed Rogue Ravenisha, the second in the series, and it's much better as it should be.
Yeah.
So I just look at this as okay, this is what I'm here to do because I wouldn't say I effortlessly wrote the story, but the words did just flow out of me, and finally my active over imagination is finally
Yeah.
come to it's an advantage instead of a disadvantage. And so that's how I came about the whole thing. Rice, the name Ravenisha comes from my niece. She used to love That's So Raven. She's now 25, but when she was smaller, she watched That's So Raven every day.
Yeah.
And so one day she told her mother, and she said to me, "Oh, if I have a girl, I'm going to name her Ravenisha." And of course, we said, "Oh, no, you are not." And that was the end of that. And so later, years late, like 12 years later, I'm sitting at my desk writing and I'm trying to think of a title for these women warriors, and Ravenisha pops into my head.
Mm.
And I kind of laugh at myself because at one point I have a character in the story asking, well, and where did y'all get that ghetto name, anyways? So I don't take myself too seriously, I know that it's campy, it's big, it's over the top, but I'm a Marvel movie fan.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't, just over the top, then where's the fun?
Hmm.
What who why would anybody want to read it or see it as a series?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's how I think about things.
I gotcha. I love it. It seems like it just kind of, you talked about always feeling trapped in that like W-2 kind of desk job that makes so many of us feel trapped. They really just got to figure out a way to make the workplace a better place to work, honestly. And
I know, but you know what? Your generation, y'all kill me. It's like my niece. She works for the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, and they're supposed to be back in the office now.
uh-huh.
But she said she's not going.
Oh,
She'll go in on the days she wants to go in because they were doing just fine, when they.
Yeah,
when COVID had the lockdown.
that's so funny. Yeah, a lot of us are like that now. I just accepted another job and it'll be in person, and I haven't been in person ever. I've never worked an in-person job.
You're kidding.
No, because I just turned 24 yesterday. So I was in college when COVID hit, and so when I was coming into the job market, remote work was a very
Oh,
normal thing.
oh. Well, you know what? Good luck. I hope, and this, some people really enjoy being in that environment and talking to their colleagues and
Yeah, I don't.
no, but it was just no, not for
But
me.
what I enjoy a good team. I enjoy being around people who are success focused, and I'll
Mhm.
be learning stuff that will help me do what I'm trying to do. And so
Okay.
I'll like those couple things, but uh I also have just problem with authority a little bit. Like I don't like people telling me I have to do something.
Me too. Yeah, that's how I feel too.
Yeah. Even if I have to do it, even if it really needs to be done, the fact that somebody told me to do it just really grinds my
Yeah,
gears. And
yeah.
so,
And having to be someplace just from say 8 to 5,
yep,
even though your work is done, you
yep,
still have to stay there because your hours are 8 to 5. It doesn't matter
exactly.
if you're scrolling on the computer and looking
Literally.
at that clock, looking at the time, 4:58, 4:59.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, but like I say, some people like it. You might like it.
Maybe.
Some people
But I will like the dude's a beast of an entrepreneur and I plan on being an entrepreneur. And so there are many things I will like about it. It's just
yes.
the in-person set time schedule probably isn't the most thing that's up my alley. But it is if I'm staying busy and I'm not just on my phone at 2 p.m. from 2 to 5 because I
Mhm,
have no more work to do, I'll be
mhm.
good. But if it does end up that I don't have enough stuff to do, that would be another story. But I don't think it'll be that way. So I think we'll be solid. Just my first time being in person. So
Oh my goodness.
yeah.
That is unbelievable. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. It I will say it is the most ideal job I could have. Ultimately, I want to be an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, but
Mhm.
it's the most ideal job I could have if I had to have a job. So
There you go. That's great.
there we go.
Because you have an interest in it.
Hmm.
And yeah, so yes, it's not something where you're just like, we'll take this job because this is all I can get. You really sound like it's something that you want to do. So that is actually great right there.
Yep. Just got to keep the perspective right. Keep my attitude good.
Hmm.
Well,
Hmm.
awesome. Let's jump into your dreams and goals. What's your vision for the book and your life?
My envision is it would be really great if it if the book was adapted into a series. Because even though they're going to change everything, it's still going to be written by whoever writes does the screenwriting, but based on the novel by P. Grace Lawson. So for me, that's wonderful because I am not a social media person. I had a social media manager, but I couldn't have the manager and work with Voyage Media. So I am not on social media.
Hmm.
And so for me, that's why I'm willing to take this chance. I will be willing to give up certain aspects of the book. And I figure if the series is popular, people will go and they'll read the book.
Yeah.
And so my goal is to complete the series. It looks like I will be writing memoirs for a bit as well because the person thinks that I he may have 3 more for me to write.
Oh wow.
So, but my ideal day, frankly, would be getting up, going to my riding lesson on my horse, and coming home, maybe doing a bit of exercise, and then sitting down and writing for the rest of the day, and getting up the next day and doing the same thing.
Mm.
Um, with a little travel sprinkled in. I admit I love going to the wineries and doing the wine tasting and spas, getting mud baths. Um, so you know, I always ask myself how I just don't understand how I ended up like in this life here.
Yeah.
So that's what motivates me really is to be able to live that sort of life while I can still walk and climb on a horse, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm not demented or anything. So it's to be able to just really live the life that I would like to live
Mm.
and on my terms.
I love it. And I'm just curious because there might be some aspiring authors listening to this right now who want to take the leap but are scared about doing it financially. So, did your book take off such that you produce enough cash flow from it to live life on your terms, or did you save and invest well from past things that you did, or how's that working?
Oh, of course not. It does just no. You I made some money, but it's really difficult if you're not if you don't have a following, a
Hmm.
social media following. So I have someone who invested in me. It's my
Oh, there we
sister.
go.
It's my sister.
Oh, gotcha.
I will say that it's super duper duper expensive.
Mm.
I mean, it's I will give a hint. I think of the author who wrote uh what is it, Blood and Bone? Have you heard about that book? Um, let me well, anyways, I won't spend time looking it up. I think she got a $30,000 advance. So that's how much I've spent.
I got you.
Hmm. Yeah, with the editing and um getting it um formatted and you know the covers, flying to places to promote the book.
Yeah.
So I would say don't let that be a deterrent. And of course, everybody says that because you could always find a way. You could be one of those people you have a huge social media following, and so you don't have to do all of the things that I've done. You know, I have a lot of promotional things. I have my T-shirts and mugs, and so all of that stuff. You know, it is expensive, and you don't have to go through. I've done it both ways. I went through people on a site called Reedsy, and it's a huge website. They help aspiring authors. They have marketing people, people who design covers, all of the editing that you need to have done. People don't even realize that you need an editorial edit. Then you need a developmental edit. The book has to be copy edited, and so this is very very expensive. But I feel it's worth it because you want to put out something that's professional. You want to put out the best work that you can. Again, you don't have to go through Reetsy. I also discovered Fiverr.
Hmm.
And so I found people who charged much, much, much less on Fiverr. So there's a whole lot of things. There's a lot you can do. You don't have to go the route that I did. And the best thing to do is I think, to check out sites like Reetsy. Um, I was gonna say join some sites on Facebook. Unfortunately, you did. Well, actually, no, it is helpful because it's nothing but authors, you know, and they're all trying to promote their book. But you have people on those sites asking questions. Well, how do you get an editor? Or I just finished my book. What's the next step, you know, to do? So the thing is, and especially for this generation, y'all online anyways. So
Yeah.
I would say get online and just start looking up stuff and always work on your craft. The main thing is to write a little bit every day.
Mm, I gotcha.
Mhm.
Well, awesome. What are the top 1 to 2 skills that you need to develop right now to make these dreams and goals continue to come true?
I need to be I need to develop a thick skin.
Mm,
That's one of them. Um, as an introverted person, and I think most writers are,
hmm
you really do have to learn to not be an introverted person. For example, here I am talking to you on a podcast. I mean, there was a time when I was not going to get out the house and talk to anybody.
Yeah,
So it's really has made me, I guess, kind of blossom in a way. So, and when I say I have a thick skin, I also mean that you're going to get negative comments. Just be ready for it. It's
for sure.
going to happen. And at first, I was crushed. But then I started reading reviews of some of the authors that I love to read. And I noticed, oh, shoot, they have negative reviews, and some of the stuff what people say is true. So that really just opened my eyes when I saw that. And I think the second thing I need to learn to do at this stage in my career is I need to learn the legal side of things.
Mm,
This is really, I had to learn about the publishing side. Then I had to learn marketing. And so now I need to learn the legal um, aspects because I think I'm going to need an entertainment attorney at some point.
oh wow.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, when you get your book adapted into a series, do you get royalties at all on the series?
You do, but that is all, for instance, how much you get. And oh, I will tell aspiring authors now who want to their books adapted, you are not going to be up here making any suggestions about who you want to play which character
Yeah.
or anything. The best you can do is to ask to be a consultant.
Mm, I gotcha.
And then they will either take your suggestions or not.
Mm,
So just know that that's coming. You know, when you get to be, say, a Stephen King or I look at somebody, the author who wrote Bones, Kathy Reichs, then or James Patterson, then you can, offer suggestions, but you can be a producer, on the series, and you can make a casting suggestions. But when you're starting out, oh no,
yeah.
oh no, you I don't even have control over my story now.
Yeah.
Oh, that I made my one of the main characters that changed them from black to white. So, oh, yeah, that's and it just depends on your goals. Again, if your goal is just to have your book published to say, oh, I have a published book, then that's fine. But if your goal is to get it out there, to have it adapted into a series, then you're going to have to be flexible and compromise.
Mm, I gotcha.
Yeah,
Well, awesome.
yeah, I mean, until you get to be at the point where you can finance it yourself and all of that. Yeah,
Mhm.
flexible compromise.
Yeah, as much as the story is needed, the money typically has the power.
Yes.
hmm Well, what character trait do you most need to develop right now to make your dream life come true?
Oh boy. Oh, that was a tough one. Character trait. I need to be tenacious. sometimes I want to give up.
Oh, don't we all?
And, because it's hard. And you do have people, when you write, you're bearing your soul. And some people they can be really mean.
Yeah,
And so, um, the main thing is to not give up. I know it's a cliche, but it's really true because if you give up, then nobody's ever going to see what you've written, or you're never going to reach your goals. And so that's what I have to keep reminding myself is I have to keep trying. I have to keep going. I've come too far, not to give up now.
yeah.
And it's really hard for me because I'm kind of like a pessimistic person. So I need to develop optimism. I need to be that the glass is half full sort of person instead of half empty.
I gotcha. Have you ever read The Power of Positive Thinking?
Oh no, I have not. I've heard of it, but no, I have not.
Hmm. It's a pretty good book. It's a pretty good book.
Okay, I guess I need to add that to my books to
Yeah.
read.
Bump it up there
But I
because
do believe that, absolutely.
yeah, he has this one sentence in there. Are you Christian or no?
I grew up in the South. I mean, how can I not be? But I'm one of those people. I'm just like, I don't believe they're sky people,
Yeah,
these
yeah, yeah.
people in the sky.
I gotcha. I was just asking because he quotes a lot of scripture, and if that would turn
Yes.
you off, then you don't need to read the book. But if
Yeah,
you're
no, I'm
open,
not that type.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, if you're open to hearing scripture and then hearing the wisdom that may come from it, you can read
Absolutely.
the book. That's
I
the only
think
reason I
I,
was asking. I
yes,
didn't want to
yeah.
send you something that was going to trigger you for like a
Oh,
month.
no, 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 no.
Um, but yeah, he has this one sentence in there, and he says, "Try to be nothing but optimistic for 1 week. Just be positive and overly positive about everything in your world, and you'll find that at the end of your week, your optimism was realism, and your realism was pessimism." And he just talks about the fact that our thinking influences our life so much. You know,
Yes,
when you
absolutely.
when you call yourself a pessimistic person, more bad things tend to happen because you tend to recognize them more. Or if you say
Mhm.
you're being realistic, it's probably a form of pessimism because you're trying to protect yourself. And the more optimistic you are, the more you create a positive reality, is what he was talking about. And so, yeah, just it was a really good line to me. And
I am definitely, what's the title again?
The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman
Okay.
Vincent Peale.
Yes, I will definitely, because I can believe you could just do that quote just like that. I'm so awful. I don't know any porn. Any quote anything.
No, yeah, you're all. It wasn't. It definitely wasn't a firm quote, but that was the idea of the quote, and so it just had such an impact on me. I think I can talk about one other story from that book. No, two other stories, but there's like 200 something pages, so a lot fell through the cracks there.
Yeah. Oh, but still that one thing. Say,
Yeah,
oh, yes.
for sure. Well, we got one
Young
last.
brain.
Oh, what's up?
I said it's because you have a young brain.
Oh, yes, yes, exactly. Well, if there were one or two people you could meet right now, and this could be a specific person or a type of person, and they'd really help you take that next step towards your dreams and goals, who would they be and how would they help?
Oh, no, I could not answer that.
Mm,
I read so many but actually your question is not if I could had to choose one book or my favorite book, but I found that I couldn't answer that just because there are just so many great books. But your question right now is slightly different. It's if I could read.
if you could meet a person right now
Oh,
and they'd help you take that next step towards your dreams and goals, who would that person be and how would they help you?
oh boy, that's still hard. um I would say, I'm going to say Jay-Z.
Jay-Z.
I know that's so strange for you, but I really love The Harder They Fall.
Mm,
And so if I could meet him, I would be like, look, Casey, I have this book here. And I really like what you did with The Harder They Fall. And if you could just get the same, director and the people doing the music, I think we have a hit.
yeah, I gotcha. There's this book called Giftology, and it's a good book. It talks about marketing and it talks about how to market to famous people like Jay-Z. And there might be a way that you can get your book into Jay-Z's hands using one of the methods in the book called Giftology.
Write that down too. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, really great book. Yeah,
Just amount of information here.
yeah. And if you go into any of the show notes of my recent podcast, probably like the past 10 or 15, you should
Mhm.
there's this link. It's called How to Meet Anybody with Steve Bozzagni. Steve Bozzagni came on my show and he claimed that he could help anybody in the world meet anybody else. He can get you an introduction. And he does that through a unique gifting method, which is based on that book, Giftology. So, might be a way for you to meet Jay-Z between listening to that podcast episode and talking to Steve Bozzagni and also reading Giftology.
I know.
But that's like, what is that? Probably 3 hours cumulative if you read the whole book and listen to the podcast episode, and then you'll be able to decide whether or not it's something you should go with.
Will do. Thank you.
Of course, of course. Happy to help. Hope you meet Jay-Z. If you do, introduce me as well. Yeah, I
Of
would just want
course,
to have him on the
of
podcast. That'd be
course,
cool.
I'll drop your name.
There we go. There we go.
I was talking to Timothy Douglas and he recommended that.
Awesome. Well, Pamela, yeah, we're pretty much out of time, so I think we're just gonna end it right there. Thanks so much
Okay,
for coming on the show.
thank you. It
Of
was
course.
nice talking to you.
Is there anything else you want to chat about before we sign off?
That is, oh, my book is on Amazon. I try to support my local bookstore. It's called The Seat at the Table. They also have it. Um, and if anyone ordered from them and they wanted a signed copy, just let them know, and I'll just zip down to the store and sign it. And you can also check out my what I'm doing. I know I just said I'm not on social media, but I am. I'm on social on all of the social media sites, Facebook, and I have my website. It's pgracelawson.com.
Gotcha. Well, awesome. If you guys are listening to this and you loved what Pamela had to say, loved her energy, loved the idea of her book, and happen to know Jay-Z. But if you don't know Jay-Z, still check her out. Check out the links, buy a book, make sure to review it. People who create love to get reviews for the stuff that they create. So review it, give her feedback, hit her up, buy a copy for you, buy a copy for your friend, and then everybody send a copy to Jay-Z. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will see you on the next one. And on that note, we're out.